Good day. Welcome to Orange County Talk Radio. I'm John Marino, and we are made possible by Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center, and we are produced by Sharc Creative. We are joined on Orange County Talk Radio today by the County Executive in Orange, Steve Neuhaus. Steve Neuhaus, thank you for joining us here on the Cup of Joe Political Show. It's been a trying year, the past year since the COVID pandemic struck. How hard has the pandemic hit Orange County?
I mean, it's hit us pretty hard. First of all, John, thanks for letting me be with you today. It's a pleasure to be with you and your guests, and I do have my cup of Joe here.
There you go. All right.
We have, as I report to you today, we have close to 700, just under 700 people that have died from COVID. It has impacted all aspects of everybody's life, no matter if you're a first responder or not. Everybody's felt the brunt of this. So what does that mean? Economically, I talked about the deaths. I talked about the businesses. We have talked about, obviously, how it's changed people's lives, whether you're a student in school or somebody working at home, kind of like what we're doing right now with like a Zoom type of meeting as part of your daily curriculum. So do I see us getting out of this? Yeah, I think we are definitely getting out of the woods, but we are still reporting. Yesterday, I reported 4 people died. There's still a lot of confusion and disorganization in the vaccine rollout coming from Albany, unnecessarily so. I say about a third of the people that I report that die every week are dying unnecessarily. They could have been prevented if the vaccination was distributed in the right way. But that's pretty much where we are right now.
How are we moving along with the vaccine? Do we seem to be getting the distribution? We're way past rollout. Do we seem to be getting this distribution around the area around better now?
I think the rollout and the continued, decimation of the vaccinations is still disorganized. And unless you know somebody, you're not getting vaccinated. The poor, the elderly are the ones that are left out to dry the most. The way that it's been given to the counties is in drips and drabs. And then it's sometimes a lot 1 week to a hospital with strings attached to it. So, for instance, one of my biggest hospitals got over 1,000 doses last week, but they said you can only give it to people in the 1A category, which are hospital workers. But that hospital is already vaccinated overwhelmingly majority of its people. So it was stuck holding them. Many occasions throughout the state, doses are given back, reallocated. The fairest and simplest and best way to do it is to, if you give it to a hospital, to give it to the counties, to give to other hospitals and federally qualified healthcare agencies, or if the state wants to give it out to its favorite hospital or this or that, let them have all full parameters to give it out. If we're in 1 Alpha, 1 Bravo right now, and if you give those doses to anybody, just let them use the existing protocols. Don't add other red tape that, make sure they're this or make sure they're that. It makes it very difficult to distribute those vaccines. And as much as I complain about the state not doing the right way and micromanaging, I'm a military guy, it ultimately comes down to a supply and demand issue. We have 19 plus million people in New York State. About 1 million people have been vaccinated. A lot of people, 10 million people are eligible to be vaccinated today. There just isn't enough doses to go around. So it makes this Hunger Games all that much worse.
Have there been hot spots around the county of COVID since the inception about a year ago? Have there been areas of Orange that have been hit harder than other areas, or has the distribution been equal?
Absolutely. It's really been where you have these high density populations. In the beginning, the Hasidic communities that we have got hit the most right in the beginning. Then you go into the big cities like Newburgh, Middletown, town of Walk Hill, which also has a lot of high density housing communities. The more close proximity you are to each other and living to each other, the easier it is for the virus to spread. So that, unfortunately, has led to these hot spots in these high congregant areas.
Mm-hmm. How did we get into this? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, John. As well as, obviously, front and center, nursing homes, housing units that maybe are not assisted care, but where a lot of elderly are living. And then you have group homes where people with disabilities, and they continue, by the way, John, as you and I talk today, continue to be, in my opinion, left behind and not given the proper attention that they need. In my opinion, we're getting drips and drabs of vaccinations given to me and given to other places. Just give me 4,000 or 5,000 doses this week. Let me go into these nursing homes. Let me go into these places where you have people with disabilities. Let's bang them out, get them vaccinated, and you would literally see a third of the deaths that I report. And this is a statewide issue. A third of the deaths would go away starting within 2 weeks of getting the vaccination in people's arms. It's that simple.
How did this situation occur where the vaccine rollout was not the way it should be today? Over a month after we rolled out, it's still not where it should be. How do we get out of this, basically, at this point? Was the state not prepared the right way?
I think the state was prepared. We've had these drills and plans on the books, John. They just didn't follow them. So they allow people to micromanage and play whack-a-mole rather and react. That's the worst thing you can do is react in these emotional ways instead of in a real effective way. And those were to address the people that are most vulnerable first. Get them done. Now, all of a sudden, we've opened up to the comorbidities. Now you got 10 million people on a list, and you're giving out 300,000 doses a week in New York State. That is, it's just not appropriate. So 70% of the people that have died in my county were 65 and above. Well over a third of them were in nursing homes, and even hot and other. If you want to increase that number, you add in these people with disabilities. That a 37-year-old woman died last week that lives in that has developmental disabilities. Nobody vaccinated her home. She died. If we had paid attention, and when they're allowed to pay attention, they blame this on Trump. They blame it on Cuomo because the federal government's supposed to be doing the nursing homes and everything like that. In my opinion, as a military leader, in the lack of leadership, you take command. So what we've been doing is trying to get as many as possible, but we're not able to physically move those vaccines from where they get delivered to. What we're advocating for, and I just sent a letter out to our state representatives, just get us the vaccines. Let's bang these ones that are remaining out and literally cut the death rate by a third within weeks of us going to that direction. So I think that they diverted from the plan, John, and they wanted to micromanage this. And in my opinion, a lot of favored people got the vaccinations. And if you're a senior citizen, you can't get on the Walgreens website. You can't get on the state website. So they're literally living in fear or dying.
Mm-hmm. County Executive Steve Neuhaus here on Orange County Talk Radio, produced by Sharc Creative. I'm John Marino. Steve Neuhaus, how did the Orange County budget for 2021 get affected by the whole pandemic? Here we are about 6 weeks into the new year. How does the budget look?
So our budget is strong. You know, we took a bump from 2020 because predominantly, if you look at a pizza pie model, our biggest chunk of revenue to function county government is sales tax. That obviously has taken at least a 10 to 15% hit. COVID, sales tax has obviously increased in online purchases and supermarkets. But when you have big mega shopping places like Woodbury Commons, where roughly 75 to even 85% of at least a third to close to maybe 40% at some years is international shopping. When that international travel shut down, those industries suffer, as well as Main Street. We have to remember in the beginning of the COVID crisis, Main Street was shut down. Walmart and these other big boxes stayed open. So those Main Street businesses are part of the economy. So that has contributed to the county's revenue loss. However, we've been pretty tight on spending, and we didn't spend money on things that you typically would do. Big events, things like that. Travel in your county, town budgets have been cut and slashed. So, look, has it been an angelic year? No. We made it through with some tight fiscally conservative belt strapping. But at the end of the day, we made it through. We're going to get some money from the stimulus, which is great. But I have to tell you, we were poised pretty strong. We had a big fund balance, which is what you call your rainy day fund. And 2020 was a rainy day.
A lot of rainy days, I guess, 2020 into 2021. Is there anything in the budget that's not in there right now that you might like to get in next time around, or you wish could be in there now?
There's a lot of discretionary spending. Like you got it. I do believe, even though you're in government spending, I do believe in investing in my people and in my equipment. So when you cut down on travel, like you're not going to Disney World to a conference. That's not happening anymore. But you are going to once, and I believe in a strong connection and networking, and being able to call somebody in a different county saying, "What the heck are you doing? Because this is killing me here. Do you have a better plan?" So I'm big into those type of conferences, sending my purchasing folks to purchasing places where you learn how to spend government money but buy local instead of just buying bulk all the time. So you can put that money back. It's called best value, and that those practices are continuing to change. Also, our finance people, they go to these places now. You could do them with Zoom now, but it's also, I do believe in that handshake, being able to meet offline afterwards. Hey, John, I'll see you at this conference, but afterwards, I'd like to grab a beer with you afterwards. You're not paying for the beer. We'll pay for it out of our pockets. But John, tell me what you're doing differently in your county to mine. Or let me tell you this exciting thing that we're trying. That's how we got our crime data analyst center. What the hell does that mean? That is a data center in my 911 center where I'm in right now. They basically use mapping and using video cameras that are on different privately held places and publicly held places to help fight crime, calling people, having these people that I call them techno nerds because they're much more technologically advanced than I am, but they're able to track and locate and help solve crimes. We did that because a couple of our friends in Albany said, "Hey, you should try this. Hey, why don't you come up here and watch us do this for a day and track crime?" So things like that are lagging, and that's been cut. But as we start to get out of this, that's stuff that I would put money back into, as well as equipment. I'm one of those guys that don't like to have plow trucks that are beaters. You're spending more on maintenance. The same thing with police cars that are getting a beating on a regular day. So those type of things I would continue to go back on. We haven't really cut them too much, but there are things that I would love to spend more money on that we've kind of like did a wait and see approach for this year's budget.
Mm-hmm. You're in a 911 center, you said, right now. In where?
Yep.
Middletown, Newburgh?
So this is in Goshen, and I know I'm going to screw you up on this, John, but you look out here. I mean, that's a map of the county and 911 calls that are going on right now. This is a very technologically advanced center. It was built in the throes of 9/11. It was opened in like 2008, but we're constantly adding and changing and remodeling things. You have right where I'm sitting right now, you can activate these emergency sirens that notify people that Armageddon is here. You better get to a radio.
Mm-hmm. And today you had a storm to deal with. I'll bet that's why you happen to be in Goshen now.
Absolutely. And well, what we do is initially, and this goes back to COVID, you had this online system to register. So if, let's say Orange County or Rockland County or Dutchess County gets 1,000 doses, it goes live, and probably 75% of the people that register are from Rockland or that county or Orange. The rest are from somewhere else, as far as Rochester. So what all the counties started doing was control their list. People register with a one-page thing on the county websites. Hi, I'm eligible. This is my name. Here's my date of birth. Hey, by the way, I'm not. I am a first responder, or I'm a police officer, or a teacher. And then we populate them physically here. I have a number of call desks. So that's why we're typically here on Tuesday to populate that list. We also organize, unfortunately, because of the ice storm, we don't have a real prognosis of when we're actually physically going to get those doses. We're also supposed to give people their second dose this Thursday. All that stuff's in jeopardy. It's not the end of the world. We'll work through it, but that's kind of why we're here. Plus, we just got through, like you said, a 14-hour ice storm that led to some car accidents, including one with a fatal car accident in Woodbury involving an 11-year-old child.
And that happened during the storm overnight?
Yep, early this morning. Yes,
Early
sir.
this morning. Yep, I know the roads were not good. Now, you're in Goshen. I began my career down the road from you in Warwick at
Yeah.
WTBQ Radio 1110 back in 1979, working for the king of polka, Jimmy Sturr, who's still there, of course, in Florida, New York. And I won a basket of cheer from a place in Goshen in a raffle in the fall of 79. I forget which place that was.
Wow.
But a lot of good memories there in Goshen.
I do a radio show on WTBQ on Mondays for about an hour, but I do call in every morning for about 15 minutes to a half
That's
hour.
Frank Truett, correct?
Frank Truett. Yep. Frank Truett.
I know
Yep.
Frank well. Yep. There you
Great
go.
guy.
Small world. Yep, great guy. So I owe him lunch. I got to get up there one of these days. So.
I'll tell him you will. You'll
Tell
buy
him
him
I
one. He'll
said
love
hello.
that.
Okay. All right. And the state budget up in Albany right now, that's due April 1st. If you had an opportunity to sit down with state lawmakers and you had a chance to talk with them about what you want or what Orange County might need in the budget or something you see the state needs overall, what might that be? And don't limit yourself to one thing.
Yeah. So, John, my big problem with the state government, and I have a great relationship with Republicans and Democrats, is really it's a spending problem. You know, you have to keep your personal business and your household in check. You're responsible. I'm accountable in Orange County as the county executive. Like I told you, we were able to weather through a really terribly economical year quite easily because of some very strict conservative budgeting practices that I've put in place. And by the way, that's not Muhammad Ali said, you're not bragging if you can back it up.
Right.
And I had two independent places, the New York State Comptroller, who's a Democrat and I'm a Republican, highlighted what a great job we did. And Moody's, which is the independent investors they tell investors how strong or how weak a municipality is, said how great our management is. So the state, I think, needs to do the same thing. And the reason why I say that, John, is anytime they end up short with revenue, they look at the counties to tax. Like this year, they said, we're going to take a part of your sales tax and we're going to use that for distressed hospital aid. Now, distressed hospital aid doesn't go to the Hudson Valley. It goes to New York City. We haven't seen a penny of that. So that's an unfunded mandate. And it's not even a mandate for us to do something. It's basically stealing money from us. Mm-hmm. So I honestly, thank, Andrew Cuomo should thank Joe Biden for being the president, because now that we have a new president in there, he's going to bail out New York for some bad budgeting decisions. A year ago, before the COVID happened, before we even heard about it, I met Robert Mojica, the governor's budget director, in Albany at one of those meetings that I told you it's great to physically meet people. All of us county executives were around a table, including the mayor of New York's representative, talking to Mojica. And Mojica was saying how they were $8 to $10 billion in deficit. That's before anybody paid attention to COVID. So I think the state of New York, it's nice to spend money, but if you're not able to pay your bills, just like a teenager or somebody that gets their first credit card knows, you have to pay at some point, or you will pay so now that you got the stimulus coming in, it's going to reward bad behavior. And I just don't want, you're not going to be able to get a stimulus in a year from now or 2 years from now when that revenue is not there. So I honestly think we need to look at all sorts of programs, whether it's for law enforcement or if it's for social services. We really need to do a bottom-up approach in Albany to make sure that everything is really necessary. And I believe I've cut programs in the county, and I've also increased funding to programs. I do a cost-benefit analysis. Is the juice really worth the squeeze that you have for it? So I would really look at a lot of programs, John, and see where those dollars and cents are going to. And you can really look around. How big is the state budget? My workforce, I'm 170 people down than when I took over in 2014, and my county's not suffering. Yeah, everybody's working a little bit more for it, but people are happy to have their jobs and get raises than see layoffs and cuts to services. So I think they really need to take a universal approach to every program and see what really is a have to have or a need to have or nice to have.
So your budgetary practices in Orange have been backed up by DiNapoli and Moody's. That sounds like a law firm.
Oh yeah, I know. But you know what? When the people on the inside know what it's about, they're like, oh, this guy he's got half an act together. Who knows? But you go before them and they waterboard you, John. They're not like, hey, John, nice to see you. Great coffee you got here. They're like, well, what are you doing about this? What are you going to do if this happens? So it's kind of reminiscent to the NYPD CompStat model, where they have somebody on the line and behind them is a turkey rotisserie behind him. He doesn't know, but there's an image of a turkey cooking behind him. And that means let's roast this guy. Let's see what he's made of.
I'm glad you brought up the NYPD. Not only is the budget due April 1st is the mandate date from Governor Cuomo to make sure that every municipality, every level of government across this state has a police reform plan on his desk. How doable is this in Orange County? How far into the game are you with this right now, knowing you have about 6 weeks to go?
So we're almost done with our plan. I'm pretty happy with the way the county does things. You always want to refine yourself. I'm still in the reserves right now. I get an analysis every year from my commanders. They do all sorts of command climate surveys. Some of them are BS. Some of them are legitimate. So you always want to sharpen your sword. But when, we do, I think, 40 hours of de-escalation training for police officers pre-COVID, pre-George Floyd. So what does that mean? Rather than being quick draw McGraw on the first person you see, you might encounter somebody that has a disability. So it helps you recognize that. Or you might walk into a situation where John is typically a calm guy, but something set him off today. Let's get John back to a comfort level and walk this back rather than escalate it. So that has had significant impacts on arrests and on de-escalating really what could be potentially explosive situations. So we have done that, but that doesn't mean we're perfect. So we've done an analysis. We've had a very broad group of people on the committee. My only problem is, and it was a diverse group, there are some people that are no-shows, which is unfortunate because those people that were put on that committee agreed to be on it, and they agreed to be on it, and they were selected because they have potential value, whether they represent a minority community, whether you represent criminals or you represent prosecutors or you represent one or another. So I will tell you that, but that's just like every organization. Go to any Rotary and there's 7 or 8 people out of 50 that are running the show, doing the show, and then the rest are coming along. But I'm just hoping that everybody's input is in and we can validate it in the next couple of weeks.
Orange County Executive Steve Neuhaus here on Orange County Talk Radio, produced by Sharc Creative. I'm John Marino. Schools. This school year is moving along. We are almost 2/3 through now. In Orange County, like everywhere else, there are different models. Some entire schools are online. Many schools are doing a combination of online and in-class, a blended kind of a learning. Do we have enough time, first of all, in this school year to get kids back into school every day? And is that what we need to do?
I think it's what we need to do. I don't know if it's something we can do, John. I got 4 little kids at home, 3 of which should be in elementary school right now, but they've been home learning. We want them to go back to school. The schools want them back. And more importantly, my kids want to go back. They miss their friends. They miss that interaction. And let me tell you, math nowadays is a lot different from when you and I went. And right. You'd have a hard time if you were doing it, John.
I know that.
That being said, you want to do it in a safe way. I think that things could and should open up more. And I think you're going to see a drastic change in schools in a positive direction in probably the next 30 days tops. I think that the graduation that the kids were left out of last year, unfortunately, those poor kids, is going to look dramatically different this year than last year. We know better. We have experience. So not only are the doses are the amount of people testing positive going down, but the amount of vaccines being put into circulation is increasing. So we should be able to do all those things, bring them back more. It's not going to be perfect. I think when we get back in September, after the whole summer's been done, Joe Biden, the new president, ordered 2 weeks ago over 200 million doses of the vaccine. And his goal is to get everybody vaccinated by the summer. And that is all our goal, right? So we can get back to some type of normalcy. So I think by the end of this summer and definitely back to September, you're going to have almost a pre-COVID with some little spiced up things in there. Maybe you're going to have to wear a mask a lot or still predominantly, but you'll be able to go back to school and have some type of normal school year, which is definitely something that is needed. And it has had a negative impact on kids. There's some positive stuff. You're home, you're spending more time as a family, but there is a big, and I don't think that'll go away. I think people are going to be like, wow, this is actually good. Some people are going to say, I need to get my kid out of the house, but there are aspects that have been really positive on this. So we're going to have to take the good and the bad and move forward.
Maybe a step moving in that direction has been the governor a few weeks ago giving the okay finally for so-called high risk winter high school sports, basketball, hockey, wrestling, cheerleading. I was shocked about the wrestling part, but that's back. Now, throughout the lower Hudson Valley, we have Orange County, Ulster, Sullivan, Upper Dutchess, part of Section 9, Lower Dutchess, Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Section 1. The two sections have worked in unison. Were you part of the confab between all the county executives up and down the lower Hudson Valley, Sections 1 and 9, that worked to get all of this back together? Word was all the county executives worked together all throughout.
We are. I have to tell you, Republican and Democrat, we got great leaders in the state and in the Hudson Valley. And we want to have an approach that is universal because you know what they do? John, Steve up in Orange County does it a little bit better than you. Why can't you be like Steve? Or, hey, Steve, why can't you be like John? And then you have a practicality. Many school districts overlap into other counties or right. At least the sporting events. So you don't want to have one group not universal. So it makes it a lot easier. And I got to tell you, throughout the crisis, we've all leaned on each other too. Like, and early on, when you have people that are dying, you're running out of ventilators, you're talking directly to the families that have lost loved ones. And it's been pretty heavy on us. And you're trying to, like I said, it goes back to your peers. You say, John, I'm almost out of ventilators. What do you do when you're at 95%? That means you're ineffectual in the military. If you're less than 25% of your manpower supplies, that means you are really out of the fight. And something serious has to change to get you back into circulation. That means your hospital's done taking patients. Things like that. So by us being able to have this tight group, I got to tell you, we talk every day still 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. Every day. Mm-hmm. Christmas, you name it, we talk 7 days a week.
Now, as we talk about COVID, you swing back to that. Have to ask you about the report from State Attorney General Letitia James about the situation moving the elderly and COVID-infected elderly in the early part of the pandemic back and forth between nursing homes and hospitals. Your reaction to the Attorney General's report?
I wasn't surprised about it. I'm not trying to throw gasoline on the governor, but I will tell you, because nobody was through this before. If you survived through the one back in the early 1900s, you're in your hundreds now and you're happy to be alive. You're not operational. You're not in charge. However, we're taking orders from the state and they needed to put these people somewhere. And unfortunately, they took them out of hospitals and put them there. And hindsight owes 2020. The problem is one of the successful things that the counties and the governor and the president did or didn't do through the COVID pandemic is do a FDR style fireside chat. Every day I do a video with my public. I try to keep it 10 minutes, less or more, and I give them the facts and that's it. So people trust you. So when you move forward when they say there was no problem, nothing to see here, just say, look, we made a mistake. If there wasn't a mistake, John, why did they change the policy at the end of May to not put positive people back in nursing homes? So just say, look, we did this practice. We thought it was the best thing. We had to relieve pressure from the hospitals, so we put them in nursing homes. But they continue to double down. That's where they get you. They get you when you start doubling down and you're not forthright with what's happening. What happened is, bottom line is, we had a lot of deaths. When you put sick people even into a place that has sick people, the more you add the risk of other people getting sick. And that is the red herring in this situation.
Mm-hmm. The upshoot of all of this, lessons to be learned. Has this situation been totally rectified up to this point, or do we still see instances like this?
Where it's not been rectified is where the vaccine distribution has been a colossal flump. You have senior citizens in not only nursing homes, but in congregate settings that are living in 55 and older communities, as well as those people with disabilities that are dying every day. I reported 4 dying yesterday, that in my opinion, 1 out of 3 would not have to die if they were vaccinated right off the bat when we rolled this out right around Christmas without any strings attached. The problem is every dose that's given out to whether a hospital or a federally qualified healthcare center or the county has strings attached to it. Only do cops, don't do teachers, only do people with disabilities. But if they can't get to your place, you cannot leave and go to their place. The micromanaging has caused lives and has made the situation worse.
Mm-hmm. Steve
And
Neuhaus,
it
County
happens.
Executive. Yeah,
And,
go
and
ahead.
that incompetence or micromanaging continues to this day.
Steve Neuhaus, Orange County Executive. You are a product of Monroe. You've worked your way straight up through the Orange County elective office system, holding a variety of elective offices throughout the county. And finally, in 2013, you were elected county executive. You were reelected in 2017. The next Orange County executive election cycle, when that comes around, which is pretty soon, how will you fit into that elective cycle? Will you run again?
So I am up again this year. Sorry, I keep every time a message comes in. By the way, from my other county executives. So when you have an interview with Mary Ellen or Mark Molinaro or Ed Day or any other guys, let me know, because I will text them repeatedly during their interview.
Yeah, I did Mark last week. Matter of fact, Mark Molinaro.
So he's done, and he can. Yeah. So. I am up this year, so that would make me the top of the ticket. There is no governor or president on the ballot, so I look forward to running again. I got 4 kids at home, like I said, and I got not only is this a great job and I like doing it, but this community has been very supportive of me, Republican and Democrat. Like I said, I was in Iraq. 2 years ago today, I was in Iraq, and my whole legislature, which is made up of Republicans and Democrats, did not give me one bit of a hard time. And my town supervisors and mayors were behind me 150%. So this community was unbelievable, sending care packages to my group and my team over there. I had a group of nursing students from Orange Ulster BOCES adopt my unit when I was there and send us stuff. So I am very fortunate to live in Orange County. And I consider it a privilege to be the county executive, and I love it because it's kind of like how I'm wired as a military officer.
So, if you were to be reelected to a 3rd term, what could the people of Orange County look forward to? What would your goals be in a 3rd term? And it might be a bit early to ask that, but I'm sure you have some ideas looking ahead.
So, one of my babies is economic development. I see a lot of people I graduated Monroe Woodbury with in '92 from high school moved out of here because of the no jobs available. So that's critical. That is a universal problem people have. You're worried about your neighbor if he's going to move or have his house foreclosed. You're worried about yourself. Are you going to be able to pay for your kids going to college? Is there going to be a future for you or your kids around here? I grew up here my whole life. I love the Hudson Valley, big outdoor guys. So I believe in a couple things. One, keep building big economic development projects and helping Main Street. So that's that combination of Legolands and McKesson and big healthcare companies, as well as small Main Street mom and pop places, microbreweries, wineries continue to grow. But there's also one thing we learned from COVID is this massive, influx of people that want to enjoy the outdoors. They like their space, whether they like it or not. You have to social distance. Hiking, rafting, canoeing, all that stuff is has taken off all over the place, and they're coming up here in droves. So I have a lot of good open space projects on the drawing board that I'll probably be able to announce in the next few months. They're obviously owned by private people, so we're in negotiations with them. The Orange County Land Trust, which I used to be on the board with, is my partner in procuring big chunks of open space that are vital for public enjoyment. So those are the type of things that you're going to see me roll out now and in the near future, as well as continuing to look after people that are left behind, people with disabilities, veterans, minorities. I spend more time in the cities than probably any of my predecessors have. I'm one of the few elected officials that's ever been into our homeless shelter, been into warming shelters. I don't show up there for cameo photos and try to shame people for being there. I honestly take it to heart, and people know that. That's why I think, I think that's why a lot of people do support me on both sides of the aisle. I'm not just regimented with one party or another. I do what I think is right for the people.
Orange County, the best county in the world to pick apples in, of course, maybe at Masker or Oaks over in Warwick, like I do.
You got the orange tree behind me.
There you go. Right. There you go. All right. And also to the best county to listen to polka music in with my old pal, Jimmy Sturr, without whom I might not be doing this 42, 43 years later. I know Riverhead out in Suffolk would challenge Orange and say we have the best polka and polka town here. So at least we keep it down in the tri-state area, Orange against Suffolk that way, Orange against Riverhead that way.
It's funny. That's where my wife is from, right near there. It's called Mattatuck. It's like the town right before it.
Very well. Yeah. I happened to do the public address at Bridgehampton High School, and the first game last week was on the road at Mattatuck. I watched it right here on the screen, believe it or not. Small world. How do you like that?
It is a small world.
Mm-hmm. And Steve Neuhaus is the county executive in Orange County. By the way, did you play football for Coach Connolly at Monroe Woodbury?
I did. I wasn't on the team, but he was my coach, and what a sweetheart. And I got to tell you, I'm a public school grad. I went to Monroe Woodbury. I did take classes at Ock, but then I went to Mount St. Mary. Got a master's at Marist College of Poughkeepsie. So I've been a local guy. I just got another degree from the Navy War College in Newport, but predominantly all my education has been local. And I got to tell you, my wife and I are extremely happy with the Chester Elementary School where our kids go. They're home now. So I am a huge proponent of the educational system and what it can do for people of all backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. And Coach Connolly's son is the head coach over at Cornwall now, one of the best programs in the state.
So the apple does not fall from that tree far.
No, his brother I know very well, Brian Connolly, who was the longtime head coach at Edgemont in Scarsdale. Coach Brian Connolly and I go back over 30 years together. He retired 2 years ago, and his son, Coach Connolly from Monroe Woodbury's nephew, is the head coach at Edgemont now. So we have a Connolly still at Edgemont and a Connolly over in Cornwall now. Like you say, the apple does not fall far from the tree. Orange County, a lot of apples fall. So it's the place, like I said, to come and pick apples and do a lot more in the fall and year round. No doubt about that.
You can also drink the apples with the apple, not only apple cider, but with the Angry Orchard moving their headquarters here a couple of years ago. Major tourist destination, believe it or not. And it's made from...
And all the wineries, too. The oldest winery in the U.S. is the Brotherhood Winery over
Brotherhood, absolutely.
Yep. So we get around Orange County, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. County Executive Steve Neuhaus here on Orange County Talk Radio. I'm John Marino. We thank you for joining us. Steve Neuhaus here on the Cup of Joe Political Show. Let's do it again real soon, okay?
Anytime, John. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
All the best to you and yours. And we are produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center in Buchanan, supporting our communities right through the lower Hudson Valley and beyond, right through April of 2021. Catch all of our Orange, Westchester, Fairfield, Dutchess, Putnam, and Rockland County talk radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube.